Welcome back to Bash is Magic, hashtag no it's not, an introduction to the command line for macOS and Linux. Here in part two, we're going to look at a brief history and some of the foundational concepts that Bash is built on. First, Bash itself stands for the Born Again Shell, a play on words after the creator of what Bash is based on, Stephen R. Bourne, who created a program called SH in 1979 while working at Bell Labs working on their version of Unix. He needed a way to manipulate files around the directory system inside of Unix and a way to interact with the computer itself. In 1988, while building out tools for the GNU infrastructure, Richard Stallman teamed with Brian Fox and rewrote Bourne Shell as what they lovingly called the Born Again Shell. They released this as an open source GNU project. If we fast forward in time just a little bit more, Linus Torvald, when building Linux, realized he needed a shell to interact with the kernel. Instead of building his own, he reached on the shelf, used the open source tools of GNU, and that is why you find Bash on every single Linux box built to this day. Now, if we look at what Bash actually does, we can go to Wikipedia and get a pretty complex answer. I think a shorter, more succinct version of that does just as well. If we type commands, we can cause actions. That's the very bare bones basics of what Bash is doing. In a way, we're sending small telegrams to our computers. But instead of dots and dashes, we're using our keyboard to send symbols. This is actually very similar to how Amazon Alexa works, or Siri for that matter. As you speak, small messages get written into text messages that's sent across the wire to some sort of service that interprets the message and sends back a response in the form of a text message. Locally, Siri or Alexa will read that text message back to you. One of the awesome things about Bash is that it is on pretty much every device you touch that has Linux or Mac OS on it, and it can be installed on Windows fairly easily. It also is the basis for many services out in the world, such as Circle CI, Jenkins, and GitLab CI/CD, which essentially are computers you don't own, which run commands based on scripts that you give those computers. Hey, thanks for watching this part. Next, in part three, we're going to move on to look at prerequisites for running Bash and some of the built-in commands to get our hands wet with the fundamental concepts.